Welcome to your journey of healing with the Healing Podcast, hosted by licensed clinician Monique Owe and co-host Dr. Amber Mohn.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Healing Podcast. I am your host, licensed clinician Monique Owe, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host here,
Dr. Amber Mohn.
Today's episode is about Gone Too Soon, and this is an episode on grief. Grief is going to be discussed many times on this podcast, you guys, but there's so many different things that we go through with grief and so many things we go through with loss that it can't be discussed in one episode. So for this one, it's going to be about Gone Too Soon. And before I jump into that, before we do that, let me go ahead and give you your jump start to your day, your daily motivation, however you like to call it. And that is plant seeds every single day that you know who you are, you know what you're about, and you know what goals you set for yourself. That's by Steph Curry, basketball player. So going back into Gone Too Soon, an episode on grief. So before I do that, guys, let me tell you guys what grief just is overall, because a lot of us talk about grief and we're going through grief, but we don't really know what it really is. Grief is basically deep sorrow, especially when it's caused by someone's death, right? It causes us pain, sorrow, we miss them. That is the grieving process. It's going through that pain, going through all those things. That is grief, right? And when I bring it back to Gone Too Soon, we're focusing on a person that has suddenly passed away, or we feel passed away when they were too young and we just weren't ready. I mean, we can probably say that with every person that we lose. Are we ever really ready? We always feel like we want more time with them. But there are those moments where it's a person was just here. You literally were just laughing with them the day before, and then you get that call the next day that they have passed. Whether it's because of a heart attack, a stroke, a car accident, a slip and fall, some type of work accident, maybe some type of poisoning, food poisoning that was just detrimental for them, like an allergy, and they just couldn't, they didn't survive. And whatever that issue is, it is just causing us to miss them, right? They're just gone too soon. They should be here, Maybe it was a heinous crime. Maybe someone took them away from you. So we're going to talk about that today. My heart goes out to you guys. I do know quite a bit about grief professionally, but also personally. This episode as well, probably going to take more of a lead. You won't hear as much from Dr. Mohn, you guys, because Dr. Mohn is going through her own grief right now. She's lost some significant people in her life just back to back. So my heart goes out to Dr. Mohn as well.
Thank you.
And just know, you guys, yes, we're licensed professionals. Happy about that. Happy about the career path that I chose. I'm sure Dr. Mohn is happy about her career.
Yes.
But, we're human as well. And we hurt just like you hurt. And as far as myself, I've lost quite a bit of people in my life, quite a bit. I learned about grief at a very, very young age. At the age of 5, I lost who I call my first mom, right? My biological mom. Beautiful soul, beautiful individual. I hear people say that I'm like her very much, but I didn't get to know her because unfortunately a tragedy happened and she just was no longer here. So she was snatched away, gone too soon. She was there and she just wasn't. And then, we're in a pandemic, right? This is COVID. Right? We've all lost a lot of people because of COVID or other circumstances. But when COVID first hit and hospitals didn't know how to handle things and you had to speak to people through an iPad or a phone, that was traumatic, right? And I as well went through that. My bonus mom, my second mom, the mom that stepped in and raised me, she unfortunately passed away during that time. And I had to say goodbye to her on a camera, on a phone. I couldn't touch her, hadn't seen her. So I get it. So when you lose someone suddenly like that, right? It's painful. You miss them. You wish if I could have just said one more thing to them, if I could have just told them that one thing, or if we could have had a conversation, got rid of that issue we had, right? Because once they pass and you're like feeling guilty because was that issue that serious, you feel like? Or let's say you did not have a relationship with them and you're feeling like I never now will get the opportunity to mend it. Like if maybe a father or a mother who never was in your life and you feel like, well, now they're gone and there's no way to fix it. So either way, it's all painful. And I want to go about, talking about what grief kind of looks like in a way, so you kind of identify that a little bit. And I'm just going to see if Dr. Mohn wants to share anything about maybe the loved ones she lost or just something about this topic to see if she's comfortable with that. Dr. Mohn, how do you feel about discussing that?
No, I'm fine with it. And so, I know this topic has gone too soon, and it just, my losses were a little different. I'm in my early 40s. and I hadn't really experienced grief until now. I lost 3 grandparents in a 3-month span.
Wow.
So I lost, and so the 4th grandparent, he passed when I was like around 7 or 8, and I didn't really get a chance to know him. So even that was different. So here it is, my whole entire life. It's a long time. I've had my grandparents. I still have my parents. And so this is new to me. Yes, I went to school for this. But, when you're actually in a situation is when you really are tested. And so I'm still trying to figure things out, Monique. I'm still trying to understand it. I'm a spiritual person, so I'm relying on, my, higher power for understanding and acceptance. So, I guess that's how I want to share.
Fine.
Thank
you, Dr. Mohn, for that. I know it's a sensitive subject for you and for our listeners out there. Listen, I just want you to know you're not alone. Many people around you are also grieving, because no one likes when we lose someone. It's not fun. It doesn't feel good, because we love those people that we've lost. The people we've lost, we love them. We care about them. And even the ones that we didn't, that we kind of were upset with, we're upset that we're upset.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about what grief looks like, because it does look a certain way, but it does not look the same for everyone. Okay, and the way we all grieve is different, and the way we grieve one person is different than the next. So stop thinking it's a formula. It's no formula. It's just things you go through. So for example, you might be angry, you might be in denial, like how are they gone? You might be blaming yourself because you feel like it was something that you could have done to prevent it. Sidebar real quick, no, there was nothing you could have done. You feel depressed about it. You're having a lot of anxiety now. Maybe, for example, if the person's been sick, or if they was, like, let's say a heart attack happened and you had to go to the cardiac unit in the hospital just to see them really quick. Now you might be a little anxious about going to any hospital. So you get anxious when you go past the hospital, right? If it has something to do with a plane crash, something like that, or a natural disaster and they did not survive. The moment you hear something about weather or a plane, it's like almost makes you freak out. That's all a part of grief as well. That is the way our body, our defense mechanism, because our body feels like, and our mind can't tolerate that thing. And I want to normalize that for you a little bit. It can look very, very, very different. And some people can laugh through it. Some people use humor to cope with it. So you're not angry, you're not bitter, but you find yourself laughing a lot and trying to minimize it for yourself because it's just too painful to deal with. That's also grief, right? Sibling rivalry getting highlighted because that sibling wasn't there for your mom or your dad, and you feel like it's their fault, or they should have did more, or you did too less, whatever. That is all a part of grief. That is all normal. We all go through things. But what I don't want you to do is going into a comparison when it comes to grieving. So while I will discuss more about grieving, what it looks like, the tips, before I do that, I want to go ahead and hop into you guessed it, our situation segment. So we're going to do a little quick segue, you guys, into the situation. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Mohn so she can discuss our situation for today.
All right. Thank you, Monique. All right, here is our situation for today. Dear Healing Podcast, I've been married to my soulmate for 6 years, and he is my best friend. When we were dating, I fell in love with how close he was with his parents and siblings. My husband is the youngest of 3 siblings, and lately I've been irritated with how they treat him. I've witnessed countless arguments where his siblings will call my husband disrespectful names, hang up in his face, and will even stop talking to him for months if he doesn't agree or give them what they want. I've tried talking to my husband about how his siblings treat him, but he always says it doesn't bother me. I really adore his family, and they have never treated me the way that they treat him. I love his siblings, but I don't think I can take much more of their disrespect towards him. Would I be overstepping if I stood up for my husband the next time his siblings disrespect him? Sincerely, a protective wife. Oh my goodness. I totally get how you feel, just having a husband with siblings. And I love, his siblings. And because of that, I always, typically make sure that when it is something going on with them, I stay my tail out of it. Monique, I stay out of it because they don't love me like they love him. They accept me because they love him. And I think I'm a pretty good sister-in-law. But their love is different, and they grew up together. They have these fights. They are how they are, and at the end of the day, there's still love there. That's always going to be. But it doesn't have to be that way for you. Once you step out there may not be any coming back from that. And maybe there is. But my suggestion is I would probably walk out of the room. I would probably, tell, my husband, look, you know how I am. Don't tell me anything that is going to upset me, because, you'll get over it and I may not. And maybe that's something that he needs to understand, is that, when it comes to his siblings and their arguments and the way they treat him, he might not want to share those things because he's more forgiving than you. That's how I'll leave that. What do you think, Monique?
Okay, I agree. I think Dr. Mohn kind of said it. Basically, stay out of it. I think you have to let your husband's relationship with his siblings be what it is, but I think you should talk to your husband about it. I think he needs to know. Maybe you can highlight some things for him, but it will ultimately be up to him, because see, you inserting yourself, one, you don't know how it's going to make your husband feel, but two, it may not always go the way you think, and sometimes we get into situations and we think we're helping and we're making it worse. So I would say talk to your husband, encourage him, highlight some things for him, but you kind of stay over there in your wife role, which is you got that different bond with him. You're his wife, and trust me, you guys have a deep connection. So I think maintain that role, because that is part of his family, and that's that in a way can be a little private because that's his family. Okay, your family, but his family, you know what I mean? Yeah. So thank you for writing into the Healing Podcast about your situation. If you guys want to share your situation, please feel free to go to thehealingpodcast.com, go to the contact tab and fill out that little portion right there, or you can email support@thehealingpodcast.com. Before we go into some healing tips about grief, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, which is healingexpressionsllc.com. healingexpressionsllc.com. If you're looking for some therapeutic services and you're in the Atlanta area or the Georgia area, please consider contacting them so they can schedule a therapy session with you. All right, going back into grief and some tips. Let me first tell you guys about grief. Listen, I know you're hurting right now. First thing I'm going to tell you guys is stop trying to figure out the why. They're not here. Why is a question that can never be answered fully. Not really. Because no answer that can be given is it justifiable? Right? Okay, it was a heart attack. But why did they have a heart attack? Well, why did that cause a heart attack? It didn't cause a heart attack for this person. Or why did they die from a heart attack? Other people don't. So the why, asking yourself, trying to figure out why, that's not a place you want to be. Asking why, it's not a good place to be with that. The second thing I'm going to tell you, stop comparing your grief to other people. Stop putting your grief on other people, meaning they should be grieving the way you grieve. That's not true. 3, give yourself some grace. Stop trying to get back to whatever this quote-unquote normal life is. I find that sometimes we want to rush back into whatever life is supposed to be, and that's not the case. We don't give ourselves time. Like I always say it, jobs give you these punk 3 days if they give you that for grief. How am I supposed to plan a funeral, attend a funeral, travel, clean up their house if I need to do that, and get back to work and like nothing happened? How does that happen? No. So you're going to need more than those 3 days. I understand financially you might not be able to take them, but please stop trying to make everything normal within a certain time frame. I had someone discuss with me, they were kind of upset. They thought they should be over it by now, meaning they thought they were doing fine because they had so many good months and they had a setback during these recent holidays. They felt, why am I crying again? Why am I back in that place? Guess what? You're going to always love your person. You're always going to always miss them. It could be 20 years down the line and you would have thought you're fine, have not cried about it in years, but one day you will be doing something and you will start sobbing, and that is okay. That does not mean it's a setback. It just means you're human and you miss that person. So give yourself some grace and understanding and some patience that some days are going to be great, some days are going to be good, some days are not. And that's okay. The issue becomes when whatever that day is and it starts to linger for days and days and starts to affect other areas of your life. Like maybe you no longer want to go to work, you no longer want to get up and do things. Well, then we got to talk to someone about it. Get you some support around you. Try to attend a grief support group. Griefshare.org is a good website you can go to just to learn some things about grief. There are a lot of websites about grief, which I will, on the Facebook page, I will probably put up some links about different forms of supports for grief, because there's so many avenues you can go to for grief support that are out there that I want you to take advantage of. And talk to some people, let them know how you feel. Be honest. If you don't feel like going to the party, don't go. Sometimes going to the funeral itself is too much. If you don't have to be there, like you're not the main person, don't go. And never let anyone minimize how you feel. Just because you were their friend and that was their sibling, don't let anyone say, well, you were just a friend. That's not true. However you feel is how you feel. You had a connection with that person. You love that that person. You miss them. It could have been your coworker. That could have been your best coworker buddy. Y'all go to lunch every day. Y'all talk every day. She or he has helped you go through some things, get through some things, and they're no longer there. That doesn't mean your relationship is less than their sibling or their spouse. You may not be mentioned in the program of the funeral, but your relationship is significant, okay? You love them just the same. So please don't let anyone minimize your connection, all right? And if you're angry about it, I want you to get help with that anger. That's not helping you. So I want you to talk to someone about it. So consider some grief counseling as well, but at least get some support and be honest about how you feel. And if you need to take some days off work, take the days off, please. If you have room for a leave of absence, please take it. You don't have to be Superman, Superwoman right now. Go through the process. Let your body heal. Let your mind heal and embrace them. And another thing you can do is have your own little ritual for that person. Maybe they liked a certain drink, beverage, and you might want to honor them. Every time you have that type of drink, a certain coffee, you think about them. Hey, this one is for you. This cup is for you. That's okay. That could be your thing. Write them a letter and express how much you love them. If you're feeling like you had some things you couldn't say, write it in a letter. Put it in front of their picture. Pull up their picture on your phone if you have one. If you don't, just read it out loud and say, this is for you. And trust and believe they know. They know that you love them. They know. Deep down, they knew. And just know that I believe we carry all those that we care about, that we love. I believe they're still with us. You just can't really see them, but they're still with us. We still carry them. So that's what I have to share about grief. Before I close this episode out, I want to make sure Dr. Mohn is good, if she has anything to share. Anything else that you would like to add, Dr. Mohn, to this?
Yeah, so just kind of going back to, holding yourself to a certain time frame of getting back to normal, not to do that. I totally agree, Monique. And when you said that, I was thinking about myself and that, for 40 plus years, my grandparents has always been a part of my prayer. And so when I lost them all, I'm still praying for them. I mean, for 40 plus years, when you're saying, some of my prayer at night is the same. And so, when they were gone, it took me a while to realize I had to take that part out of my prayer. That was difficult, and so I didn't know how I felt about that. So I just wanted to, bring that out. But also, too, when you talk about, your relationship and how with the person that you lost and, how you take things, I think that is so important because they were my grandparents. They were my father's parents. So his understanding is a little different from mine. So I love my grandparents to death. But I also understand, I understand that, my grandfather was 101 and my grandmother was short of her 99th birthday. I understand that they lived a full life. And so it made it a little easier for me, in my grief. But looking at my father, he doesn't look at it like that. And I understand that too. He's not looking at it. And so it doesn't make either one of us wrong. But, we're grieving different.
Yeah.
So feel free to grieve how you're going to grieve and don't feel bad if you understand your loss maybe quicker than somebody else. I just want to put that, or if you don't, your outlook on it is a little different. So that's all I want to add, Miss Monique.
All right. You know what? Now, when you said that, you said 99 for your grandmother, right?
Yes.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful age. You know what? We all lost someone. I think we all can say we lost someone at the end of 2021.
Yes.
It was 99.
Yes.
And that was Miss Betty White.
Yes.
I don't know if there's a person, maybe it is, who didn't like Miss Betty White. Man,
she was my jam.
Was the joy, She just was funny. Whether you liked her on Golden Girls as Rose.
Yes.
And the not so smart things she used to say, or whether you liked her in her movies and just the comedy and the joy she brought, right? Because she lived a full life, it appears. And she was just about to turn 100, and but she was called on from this earth. So absolutely. I just, that is even so. Imagine. So we all miss her, right? As fans, right? Mm-hmm. But her family might feel a different way, but we all still miss her,
right? And
the joy she may have brought into our homes, right? Mm-hmm. So understand, yes, there are levels, but yes. Either way, give yourself room to grieve.
Yeah.
Now, I thank you guys for tuning in today. I hope this episode has been helpful. Remember, go to just one resource. Go to griefshare.org and go on there and try to look up some tips for grieving. And again, Google some grieving, how to get through grief. You'll find many different supports for grief. But I'm going to go ahead and put that on to the Facebook page, the Healing Podcast Facebook page, the fan page. Go ahead and like that too. Make sure you like that page. And I'm going to put something on there some links for different grief supports. All right. So thank you for tuning in. It's the Healing Podcast. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.